You're Britain's best-known deaf stand-up comedian, John Smith. Some people would say you're the first real deaf stand-up ever. You tour all over, from local deaf clubs to public theatres, and all around the world, from the USA to Ireland, and all over Europe. Do you ever get nervous when you go out to face an audience?
Oh, I get nervous. Nerves are important. I remember back in my first gig in Rotherham. That was the worst. My legs were shaking. I couldn't see the audience. There was a total blackout in front of me. They cued me to go on, and I just couldn't. I had stage fright. Go! I couldn't. I'd been painfully shy all my life. Finally, I went on, but I still couldn't see anyone out front. I thought, do I talk to myself? But as I walked out, the lights came up, and there was the audience. I was petrified, but I took a deep breath and started. Slowly, the nerves went, and I relaxed. Whenever I perform, I still get nerves, but not as bad and not through the whole show. Of course, I'm used to it now.
Are some audiences harder to crack than others?
Yeah, they vary. It's mixed. I know how to work an audience. If I see some people chuckling, I'll home in on them. If I can tell from some other faces that they're not getting it, I'll use their confusion. I'll exaggerate my facial expressions till I get them laughing too. If some people just don't get it, and it's too hard work, I just leave them, but so far it's been fine.
You say some audiences can be tough. What's the toughest audience you've faced?
Well, there was one really tough one. I'll never forget it. In Dublin, at a hearing festival. A packed house with 350 people. I started and the audience were laughing. There were some hearing people dotted about. So I'm working away and I started to feel that something wasn't right. Then in the front row I saw 4 hearing people who were just not getting it. The rest of the audience were in fits of laughter. So I came to the front and asked them if they were hearing. They nodded. So I started using big gestures. I told them I'd mime more for them. That brought a smile. The rest of the audience were annoyed, but I said these 4 were part of the show too. I came off at the break thinking that if I went to a hearing show and didn't understand, I'd scarper. But these 4 had stayed, so fair play to them. When I came back on, they'd gone. I thought, well, that's normal. Deaf people get up and leave sometimes. So I cracked on. After the show, the stage manager came up to me and we had this mimed conversation. He said 3 of the 4 had pleaded to stay, but the other one said they didn't understand and wanted to go for a meal. So the others had to give in. But they said to tell me it was a good show. So I felt good. You can't please everyone. It's like when I go to a hearing show, it varies. But that made me feel good.
You said you know how to engage with an audience, but how do you do it? What's your secret? How do you win them over and get them laughing? Can you tell us more?
It's culture and everyday life. Deaf and hearing cultures are different. So I use my observations to draw comparisons, and more often than not, this makes people laugh. Sometimes people disagree, but I just say everybody's life experience is different. So it's everyday life, plus my signing skills. Sometimes it's just a little facial expression that makes people laugh. It's natural comedy ability. If you don't have that, there's no point. You can't learn it at university. It's something I was born with or taught myself. I think maybe my linguistic research and knowledge has helped partly. Without it, I might just be spouting rubbish. So, that's it.
You've visited many different countries. Are deaf audiences different around the world or much the same everywhere?
When I perform abroad, Europe or around the world, I use international sign. I use more visual aids, PowerPoint or a visual prop. I don't use a microphone, forget sound, everything's visual. Of course, hearing people have to work their eyes harder because there's nothing auditory. Some things are quite new to them. It's a little deaf awareness. They may think deaf people are inferior, invisible. History's ignored us. We need to expose that, make people think. It can have a real effect on them.
In a mixed audience, deaf and hearing, who have very different cultural backgrounds, how do you manage to get both sides on board laughing with you?
With a deaf audience, it just comes naturally, through sign language. For a hearing audience, I need to work a bit harder, using more visual expression, sometimes with an interpreter to translate the cultural references. Deaf people get them because they live with them, but the interpreter needs to explain more for the hearing audience. It's hard work, but it works well. For a deaf audience, everything's signed, but internationally as well. You've got to adapt to the culture. For example, in France, you've got these little espresso coffees, but in Britain, it's big mugs. So you can use these differences to get a laugh. That's not deaf culture, it's just part of French culture. It's fascinating. I feel like I'm re-educating myself because my schooling was total rubbish.
What's really amazing is it's not as if you're a comedian with long years of experience behind you. You started just 10 years ago, at the age of 40, when you got involved in that gig in Rotherham. What made you want to get involved?
Well, before that first big gig, I'd been in a few groups. I joined the British Deaf Comedy Group, but I'd broke up. So I set up my own group, but then I had second thoughts and decided to go it alone. I'd seen Peter Kay on TV talking about hearing life experiences, and I thought, deaf people have got the same. And looking back, people had always been telling me I should be on the stage. I'd always said no because I was so shy. People still say to me, "You shy? Get away, you're on the stage. Rubbish." But I am shy. Anyway, after a while, I decided to try stand-up. And that was it.
So growing up, you were shy. But did you always have the ability to make people laugh?
Oh, when I was growing up, when I talked to anybody I met, they'd laugh and say, "Don't be silly." People were always laughing at me. So I knew I had this comic ability. Plus, I loved to watch visual comedians on TV, like Charlie Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy, the old greats. I couldn't get enough of them, because nothing was based on sound. So I grew up with that.
What were your family like?
My family, they were all hearing. I had two brothers and a sister, and I was the second oldest. Communication was minimal. I'm not blaming them. It's how society was. Everybody, the doctor, the social worker, all of them said that I should be brought up orally, and they just went along with that. That's how it was. So I had to use gestures to get through to them. It's still difficult. When I go to visit them, I still have to use gestures, and it's frustrating. I think it all goes back to education. Good education should be the top priority. I mean, why do children get taught French and German? We live here. Fine for going on holiday, but we live here. That annoys me. My stepdaughter likes practicing her French. I asked her if they do sign language in school. She said no. Come on, I live here. For me, that's a massive issue. Education, that's the foundation. It should come first, not later, when the damage is already done. That really gets me.
When you were growing up, did you have a happy childhood?
Growing up, was I happy? I really don't know. I haven't really analysed that time very much. But trying to analyse it now, I think it was pretty awful. When I see what's happening to deaf kids now, I'd like to stop some things happening, but you can't get involved. Looking back, I had no communication in my family. I was completely left out. I did have friends, of course, not real friends, just using basic gestures to say, like, joining a game of football, but no meaningful communication. I did have some deaf friends a fair distance away, and I'd have to go on my bike to meet them for a chat, but home was really lonely. I'm fine now, but I still look at deaf children today and see how hard it is for them. I'd like to take them all and look after them properly. I want to protect them. Of course, you can't. But maybe a deaf child with hearing parents, the parents will come up to me and say, "Thank you for giving our child a role model." That's something. But back then, there were no role models. We just tried to copy hearing people, and we looked ridiculous. No deaf role models at all. Wow, when I look back.
Do you have any special memories of your childhood that stand out?
Memories. Well, my memories are all linked to something funny. My best memories are laughing at Tommy Cooper. Laurel and Hardy. I still remember them. I've no great memories of my life as such. All I remember is rubbish education, rubbish communication. It all came down to problems with communication. So all my memories are of laughing. No sad memories, really. One memory, though. Right, here's one. The teacher came up to me. I was a bit of a lad, a naughty boy. So the teacher said, "You're being naughty, you're using signs. Oral is better." I told her I'd seen some deaf people signing, and she said, "They're not clever like you." What she meant was that spoken English was superior and sign language is a monkey language. And I used to mock those kids from being like monkeys. And it was only much later when I did some research that I understood, and when I tried to tell people they didn't want to know. I think people still don't want to know, they just ignore us. I'm telling you straight, they ignore us. Fine, they allow a bit of a mix, bilingualism, some opportunities and all that, but sign language in its own right is still excluded. It's swept under the carpet. That's still happening. The language is important, it's visual, and that's how our children will learn. It makes my blood boil.
So at school your education was oral, but you were really good at sports. You were keen, you won various medals for different sports. You won a brown belt in karate. So did you ever consider a professional career in sport?
Aye, that's right. At my first school, I was good at sports, primary school. When I left, I got the top prize and medals for the long jump, running, all sorts. When I left school, I wondered what I could do, so I thought of karate. I had no friends, so karate was good for me. I didn't learn so I could fight. It was for sport and fitness. I started entering competitions. I came third in the brown belt category. Then a week later, I injured my hip and I had to give it up. I'd still love to get back into it, but I can't because of my hip. Then I joined a gym and did an aerobics teaching course. That was tough. My first day on the course, they were talking about medical stuff, and I thought I was on the wrong course. But they explained we had to learn about the physical side first. Again, lack of information. Anyway, that was a relief, but it was hard. Then they brought in music. I said, "But I'm deaf." They said, "Just to watch the movements and feel the vibrations." Anyway, I passed. Out of 12, only 4 passed. Some of them said they only passed me because I was deaf. I said, no, deaf people can do these things if they're delivered properly with the right access. It's about application and determination, not just because you're deaf. So I started teaching aerobics to adults, deaf and hearing, at different venues, for charities, all over. But then I laid lapse. I became a joiner, and I did that for 20 years. Then I thought it was time for a change, and I became a comedian.
We talked about your education and your teaching. So what made you decide to become a joiner as opposed to a sport professional?
Why a joiner? Well, I didn't set out to be that. At school, I only passed 3 exams. Maths, which I was good at, joinery, and geography. I spent most of my time copying stuff, so I only had 3 qualifications. When I left school, I felt a bit thick. I was bright, I had visual awareness and a good brain, but I wasn't educated. I'd only 3 qualifications. So the social worker picked up on the joinery. I didn't want to, but they told me it was a good job and jobs were hard to get. So I got a job, but it just didn't feel right for me. Working with my hands was fine, but it didn't feel right. It was the hearing environment. It was oppressive. I was told I wasn't allowed an interpreter. If I asked somebody to make a call for me, they'd say, "What for? You're here to work." I said, "Other people make calls." They say, "They were only 2 minutes. Mine took longer." Discrimination. They threw things at me to get my attention. There's a long list of things. I was a joiner for 20 years, but it just wasn't me. So I finally escaped.
So did your experiences as a joiner and a teacher give you material you could use later on as a comedian?
Oh, aye, plenty. One example that really struck me, joiners are well known for being rude, swearing, page 3 pictures on the wall and all that. Anyway, I left that job. I actually sued them and got a job as an advice worker. That was the complete opposite. Really threw me. There were the joiners swearing right, left and centre, then the advice workers, very PC and observed specific boundaries. The joiners with their pictures of bare boobs and page 3 on the wall, and here there were pictures of flowers or cats and dogs. I was totally thrown. If I swore, I was reminded of the boundaries. It was a bit bewildering till I got used to it. If the advice worker saw into the joiner's world with all the swearing and drinking, they'd be very disapproving. But I was quite firm. I said the joiners had their own ways, which were different, and that everybody should learn to respect and get on with each other. But at that time, there was this idea that white-collar workers were somehow better. Not true. It's just different lifestyles.
As a stand-up, a lot of your humour involves making fun of hearing people. Tell me more about that.
Yes, I do poke fun at hearing people, but it's like hearing comedians who mock deaf people. When they do it, it's a little bit oppressive. When I do it, yes, it might have a bit of a put-down to it, but it's done with humour, just comparing how deaf and hearing people behave. It's not done with malice or intending to oppress. Not at all.
Your wife's hearing? What does she feel about all this teasing hearing people?
My wife, she's not bothered. She just accepts it. Sometimes I try things out on her and she'll say, yes, you're right, or she'll laugh and tell me I'm wrong. There's no bad feeling or objections. We're like best friends, we share everything. Sometimes I ask her to check something out for me. I have to say there are those that think I've got a downer on hearing people, but not at all. My wife's hearing. I have hearing children. I teach sign language to hearing people. Yes, I get annoyed at people that haven't a clue or don't understand us or won't try to understand or refuse to accept us as a community. But that doesn't mean I don't like hearing people, deaf or hearing. It doesn't matter.
You also poke fun at deaf people, and yet we think it's hilarious. How do you get us to laugh at ourselves?
I've got that rapport because we've all been through the same. It's a shared laugh. I'm not putting deaf people down. If I was hearing, they might feel my jokes were getting at them. They might feel insulted because the person wasn't deaf. Just like black people have words they use in their humour that a white person wouldn't get away with. I'm deaf and I've had the same life experience, so I understand. For hearing people who don't know, it's a good way of giving them information, to make them think, fill in all the gaps. Sometimes I feel I'm giving them the foundation of their education. It's a good way of getting more information out there.
You've said that as you were growing up you watched hearing comedians. Who were the ones who really influenced you and why?
Well, I watch Peter Kay. I've no idea how he uses intonation, but for me being deaf, I think my face is my intonation. It all comes back to that natural ability to use body language and facial expression. Without that, I'm not so sure. So you must have that skill and repartee. That's essential. You need to be able to think on your feet when something crops up and react in a humorous way. Or sometimes silly talk or even a mistake can get a laugh. A good example was Tommy Cooper. His magic tricks always failed, but audiences thought it was hilarious. I can do that. If something goes wrong or they make a mistake, some people get embarrassed and freeze. You can't. You have to just get a laugh and carry on. That's a skill I have. There's a video of me. My mum can't find it now, when I'm walking about being daft and she's telling me not to be silly. In photographs, I'm always pulling faces. People used to think, what's wrong with him? But that's just me.
There are more and more deaf comedians coming through. What do you think of them?
Those I've seen, great. Hats off to them. Years ago, there was only one group. Now there's more popping up. Maybe that's down to new technology. Media like Facebook really gets things out there. Some I admire, others not so much. But it's great to see it being passed on. Now I'd like to work more with children. Before, I was only interested in performing, but now I'm moving towards doing more workshops with children. That's been great. The children are so keen. And again, parents come up afterwards thanking me. It's incredible. So now I do a mixture of performing and workshops. Kids are always telling me I'm funny and that they like me, and if they weren't at the workshop, they'd be sad. So, good feedback.
You've said that both deaf and hearing people come to see you. Now you have appeared at a big hearing theatre, the Lowry in Salford, where other big names in comedy have appeared, like Paul Merton, Frankie Boyle and others. Do you feel that puts you up there, on a par with them?
Yes, it was very successful. There was a mixed audience, deaf and hearing, very successful. But there wasn't an audience of thousands. It was a smaller room, not the main theatre. We were like hidden away. Maybe they were a bit embarrassed about sign language. But that's like when I watch the Comedy Awards. You can do a chair count on the hearing people. Where are the wheelchair users? People with physical disabilities. You could do yourself an injury looking for them because they're not there. Neither are deaf or hard of hearing or anybody like that. Zero. They're all hearing, chatting and guffawing away. Why is the media so dominated by hearing people? Why? There's no reflection of normal life in it. Real life consists of a mixture of people, disabilities, ethnic minorities. They should all be represented, but they're not. They're still a big fat zero, and that really annoys me. There should be recognition for disabled comedians. But recently there's been none on television, zilch. It really gets me going.
As well as stand-up comedy, you've also done some comic acting in films such as Four Deaf Yorkshiremen. Is that difficult when you have to follow someone else's script? Do you think it manages to retain the humour?
Four Deaf Yorkshiremen was good. First one was a bit of a struggle, having to follow directions, do this, do that, doing things somebody else's way. I would say something one way and then he'd say, no, this is a children's programme, so I had to bring things down a notch. But I have to say I did learn a lot. It was a really good learning experience compared to the crap I got at school. Yes, I really enjoyed the acting. Now I film my own home movies so I can check out my facial expressions. It's brilliant. But that was a really supportive team, yeah.
The comedian Ken Dodd says the aim of his humour is to spread happiness. Do you agree?
It's a mix. I think most people tell me they just want to be happy. They're stressed at work, life's pretty grim, bit of a grind, so some laughter's a bit like a medicine. One interesting experience I had, I went somewhere in Scotland, and an old lady came up to me and said that her husband wanted a DVD of mine. So I gave her one, and off she went. 2 or 3 years later, I met the same woman, and she told me her husband had died while watching my DVD. I was a bit distressed. But then she said to me, no, it was great, because he'd found laughter and he passed away happily, with a big smile on his face. And that was really rewarding. He'd found laughter. When she told me, I thought that was so positive, he had died happy. I want the same. I'm sure we all want the same. So that was a great memory.
So you said you want to make people happy through your humour. You like to see people enjoying themselves. But behind the humour and the banter, there's sadness as well. Can you tell us more about that?
You're right. I do feel sadness. There's a whole raft of things, but mainly education, children's education. There's so much, really. When I see people who are lonely, like in care homes for older people, that angers me. Where's the support for them? They're left with no conversation, just sat in their chairs. That upsets me. They come to me and say, I'm lonely, I want to see more of you, you make me laugh. It's awful at home. After my act, a lot of people come up and tell me their problems, ask for advice. I'm not God or Jesus. I'm not. These are things that affect them in society. I know hearing people have got problems, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about deaf people. We need big changes. That gets to me. People may think I'm just about comedy, but I'm not, especially when I meet people and they tell me their problems. But what can I do?
So inside this world-renowned deaf comedian, when you examine yourself, who are you? What are you?
L-O-V-E. If somebody's sad, I give them love. I love to give people hugs, physical contact. I'm quite reserved. I don't show my emotions very much, keep them to myself. But love is what's important. If somebody's ill, I want to help them. I've no money, but I do have love. Love comes first. I like to look out for people. And if they're down, if they're not feeling great, I like to try to cheer them up.